Open Class Doodle, episode 28, The Mystery of the Phrygian Cap. One hat, one cap to rule them all. And even though this title sounds a bit like, well, what's all about the hat, right? I promise you guys. Hello, chat. Hello, everybody. This one is going to be an explosive episode where we're going to unearth, uncover, disclose some of the greatest mysteries of our planet, of humankind. And we're going to travel all over the place, and we're going to open up a lot of drawers, a lot of Pandora's boxes, a lot of windows, and we're going to look into history like we never did before. So without any further ado, let's jump in today's episode, Open Class Doodle 28, Tactical Doodles for Success. This is the COACHMC studio. This is where we help you guys, performers, entertainers, creative heads, actors, to really shape unique behavior delivery, something compelling and intriguing and remarkable that's all about you, and to stand out in the audition room, no matter where the audition takes place, no matter what you're auditioning for, because in the end, it's all about communicating your ideas in a successful and impactful way. And sometimes these ideas, these inspirations, these impulses, they come from secondary literature that is sometimes kind of deviating from that original script, because it's about feeding our heart, feeding our mind, and getting some new knowledge in there and kind of connecting the dots. This is exactly what we do. So it's all helping us to create a unique performing product and to kind of, shape our core value proposition even more, right? And being really unique about what we present. So without any further ado, let's jump into today's episode. Let's welcome our guest in a couple of seconds, and let's see what's cooking. And you know me by now, I can't do this on my own. I'm way too boring, and I need help, especially when we're tackling these universal topics. And plus, I can't live without them. Just once a week is just not enough for me. So the Sicilian history goofball is always flanked by, the very invasive, very pale Ryan Roger Athale from out of Wales, and from the Latino boy who likes to breathe fire all day long. So welcome everybody to the show, Ryan Roger Athale and Dragon Slayer Commentary. So great to have you on.
Great to be here, Coach. As you see me in cosplay, the only one I can afford, I'm the Unabomber.
Dun, 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 dun. Welcome, Chad, as well. Laura Coulot and Dungeon Master Blaster is also joining us. Cheers, mate. And why don't you guys introduce yourself to the creative community if you're living under a rock and you don't know by now who these fine gentlemen are? Take it away and introduce yourselves.
I'll start first because Dragon never shuts up. Hello, everyone. I hope you're all doing well, and it's great to see you all watching today. Me and my Unabomber cosplay. I was born in 1999, so by the time I was born, he was locked away, I think.
We think, right? Yeah.
I think so, yeah. And I'm sure it's going to be a great show, folks. Coach is criminally underrated. He has a great intro, great setup. That piece, that media piece after his monologue is absolutely brilliant, yet he's a criminally underrated content creator on YouTube because he's a boomer and because he is German. He says he's Sicilian, but he spent most of his time in Germany. If he had moved to Japan like Cabrutus did, who moved from Brazil to Japan, he would have been set for life, Axis for life. As it
probably.
But I'm sure we're going to have a great talk about this great European mythos in regards to the frickin' cap, which is spelt in a Ebonics way of saying frickin'. So, because they can't spell. So here's to a great show. You guys know where you can find me. Just type this in. Or maybe that. On with you, Dragon.
Yeah, no, I'm glad to be here. My name is Dragon from Dragon Slayer Commentaries, where I basically do usually weekly dumpster dives into, well, the fiery dumpster of hell that is current day Hollywood. And I try to cover basically all the good and bad that comes out of it, mostly the bad, because shit, there's been a lot of it. But I am trying to get some good stuff in there. But yeah, that's what I mostly do. I usually join Coach in these wonderful little streams with him. And
That's
I also
our 7th show together, right?
Yes,
7th or
it is.
8th?
Yes, it is our 7th show together,
Wow.
and we always wanted to have another person on to create this like trinity of madness and wisdom, you know.
And we
And,
need someone who's funny. I mean,
Yeah.
we
Hey, what the fuck?
Welcome
No,
to
but-
the Saturday Night Reject Show.
Not the reject show. And yeah, we all show up in Saturday Night Hypnosis when we can. But hey, I gotta say, it's always great having a good time with you two. You know, just talking about the esoteric topics and just having fun. Tokusatsu method. Why does that sound familiar? Hold on.
It does.
Singer.
It does.
Is that a sex position, my good man, with the very long name? I can't see it because I'm wearing sunglasses.
You know
but
that
is that a sex position in
the
your
long name
country?
maybe is a substitution for something shorter, right? Is that a compensation, Vinsinger, aka El Otaku, aka the Wee Pillar?
Oh my
hope
Well,
not.
if you're wondering if we know of this, Daxinar.
Oh, nice.
Thank you.
There's somebody who's watching.
I didn't know. That's great. Shit, I didn't know
I'm
that.
just going to read this comment now. Oh, yes. Yes.
And
No,
believe
yeah.
it or not, creative community and chat as well. Welcome everybody on Facebook, on Instagram. You're more than welcome also to join us over here on YouTube, right? And leave a nice follow. Also to these incredible, funny, and very, very knowledgeable, professional human beings that do everything to entertain you and to inform you at the same time. And then it's called infotainment, which is the holy grail of YouTube. So definitely kind of support our cause over here as well. But thanks so much for clicking in, and definitely smash the like button once you're here already. The most incredible thing is that these, this trinity of tangent deviators and derailers, these professional people that are here, we're going to show you a part of history today that maybe in this type of context no one showed you before. And like we did with our first episode, I mean, what is our mission here? Is it to kind of give you an alternative timeline for history? What are we doing here? Are we trying to unearth some of the deeper core mysteries of this planet? Are we traveling through history? We're trying to find a new code for certain things, and so we started with the Cygnus key, which is a very interesting way of looking at all these monuments from the past and what this animal actually stood for these various cultures all over the globe. Right? Again, we have this unified theme. Then we looked at the handbags of the gods. Again, a unified theme that we find everywhere, alongside with the cone. Thanks so much for the timestamps, Ryan Roger Athay, and with the pine cone, and also alongside with some other themes and very interesting metaphors. And today we're looking at the Phrygian hat, at the Phrygian cap, and how that hat, that single piece of cloth, right, kind of represents a whole world of historical developments and interesting political ramifications as well.
I mean, what we do, Coach, on this show, every Tuesday, that is, because Open Class Doodles has many variants within it. But on this show, every Tuesday, ladies and gentlemen, we shine a light on lost history, especially from an anti-establishment perspective, because who the hell trusts the establishment in this day and age? And we've talked about a wide variety of interesting and intriguing topics, and I provide my perspective, which is always comedic. And hopefully you will all enjoy as we talk about a frickin' cap, because that's how I heard it pronounced, so that's how I'm going to say it, and how it relates to the lost history of ancient Europe, especially around the Mediterranean. So buckle up, folks. You're in for a bumpy blooper.
We have one of our
You're in
bloopers.
for a bumpy ride, and yes, we are all straight white men. Latinos are white unless we need minorities. Please continue, Coach.
Sure. Thank you so much. So in essence, a Phrygian cap, right, is something. It's like a piece of cloth. It's a garment piece, right? It's something you can put on. It's nothing really special per se. It has a very distinct look. We can, just take a very quick peek at here. We have this typical hat piece, right? This is out
Looks
of British
like a
music.
hat with a penis on it.
Yes, in fact, yeah. Some say
Sorry.
this is like a scrotum of a bull. Some say that's a gallbladder. There are many ways of interpreting this, but in a way, that's basically already it. That's the Phrygian cap, and Phrygia was just a part. It was a region of what we call today Turkey. So you might think, what's the fuss about this very, kind of anonymous looking hat? And why is it so important? And why do we feel that this could shed potentially a new light into history? Now, let me say this. The guy wearing this hat here in the picture is a god called Mithra. And this is where the whole mystery sort of starts. Because throughout history, there is very little about the Mithra cult per se. We have a couple of historians, we're going to talk about them today as well, that kind of mention this Mithra cult and where it comes from. And I think the first one to kind of, give us like a unified picture, history-wise, where the origin of this cult is, where it's coming from. It was a Belgian historian, 1869, Mr. Coman, who kind of linked the Mithra cult and the Phrygian cap to, of course, the Persian god Mithra, because it's kind of spelled the same way. Mm-hmm. But that is not all of the story. And yes, there is definitely a Persian Mithra. And yes, this Persian Mithra was born on the 25th of December, had 12 disciples, was, kind of nailed to the cross and kind of, ascended to heaven after 3 days and all that. So we have very interesting parallels, but this is not really why we're covering the story today, even though the parallels, of course, to our today's religion, Christianity is quite amazing. But why we're covering this is exclusively because of this piece of cloth up here. It's more the cap that stands for a symbol, that stands for a cult, that stands for a secret society. We can call it a secret society because we know very little about it. It's actually one of the less known secret societies on this planet. But nonetheless, like we will show you in today's show, everybody who is in power on this planet identifies at least part of his power with this piece. And so let's dive right into it. So we see here the good Mithra, the god Mithra. And what he's doing here with this dagger, with the sword, he is killing a bull, which is a ritual in ancient times, which was called taroktoni, which is the sacrifice of the bull. And everybody who watched some of our Greek mythology episodes with Dragon Slayer commentaries knows exactly, wait a second, the bull isn't the Taurus or the bull one of those main symbols of Greek mythology? And yes, indeed, actually, Greek mythology is kind of, there are many stories and myths about the bull, and it's identified also with Zeus, which is, the head, the king of the Greek gods. And there's definitely already like an interesting connection there between this guy up here and the bull down there. And besides the bull, we see also a dog licking blood from the wound that is coming out of the stabbing. And there is, of course, also a snake. And if you look even closer, you see a scorpio as well. And this whole composition, is it's a very symbolic, very interesting metaphor for, I would say, astrological events, and we're going to prove that as well. But why is this cap so important? Why do you think?
It is on the tip of the head, Coach. Though I will say you could make the analogy that the dickhead is slitting the throat of the bullshitter. It would be good to get Dragon Slayer's perspective, but he's been so rude. He's gone to take a piss without telling anyone.
No,
hey,
he
Dragon,
always
can you hear us?
No, he's always very excited when he goes on live. So he needs his 2 minutes of toilet wellness before he really comes to the mic and destroys our phonetics. So yeah, I know it's crazy, but it's a Latino. So we have Dex and R, Dragon Slayer. From seeing the director talk about, I would guess it's very genuine, which is funny than anything in the movie.
Oh, he's talking about the Magical Black People movie. Yes.
Right.
Yes, unfortunately, I've seen a lot of people say that, some people think it's like more esoteric and hidden, that, oh, maybe this is like an experiment, a pet project of David Alan Grier and director in like super deep satire, because Alan Grier's conservative, but then I'm like, no.
In all fairness, Dragon, I don't think their kind are capable of that kind of cinema or of that kind of secret society mindset. It's only people like us who do that sneaky shit, and it lasts the tests of time, which is exactly what Coach is going to
weren't they brown skinned?
explain.
Weren't the original ones brown skinned or Coach's color, or like,
Whoa.
how does that work?
No.
I just want to sorry, I had to take a quick bathroom break, folks. I apologize.
Well, we know when you get excited, you need to kind of ventilate, your intestines.
That's not
we know
true.
Ventilate the fire piss.
Coach, you're such a talented speaker that Dragon was like, nah, I don't want to listen to any of this. I'm jealous of your great speaking ability, despite the fact that this is the second or third language to you. But this is a very complex and deep subject, folks, and it's quite difficult to bottle down or to put it in a more modern context. Hence me saying the dickhead is killing the bullshitter.
It's beautiful. I love that. And we know that, the connection that we see right here is already, it's very blatant, right? You could say that the bull also stands for the Greek Empire. And of course, Mithra, being a Persian god, right, stands for the Persian Empire. And both fought bitterly against each other. And there were a lot of things, rituals, and of course symbols, goddesses and gods that were adopted from the Persian lore into the Greek lore, and then kind of course brought also to the Roman Empire. But this is not as simplistic as it looks like on first glance. But the thing is that Persia in mythology in the past has always been some sort of a bridge between Europe and between Asia and the near Asian continent. As a matter of fact, we find Mithra being also a god in the Upper India region, and the root meaning, both words mean actually the same, whether it's in Sanskrit or in Old Persian. It means, and this is crazy, contract. So the hat itself seals the contract of Mithra. And this is interesting because in Persian mythology, there is Ahriman, right? Which then became Saruman with Lord of the Rings, right? And we have Osmud, which is these are both the negative Ahriman and the positive aspect of God. And the mediator, the one who talks to both, is Mithra. And Mithra in Old Persian mythology wears always this hat, as well as in Old Indian mythology. Actually, in Indian mythology, in Sanskrit, Mithra is described as a good friend, as a benevolent person, as someone who is trying to kind of bring peace and redeem people, similar to Vishnu. So we have in Persia and India both same aspects of the in terms of how they explain this religious figure, the same description. So we tend to assume that both gods are actually one and the same. The thing is that Mithra later on, through the Greek adoption and later on to the Roman adoption, became also a very prominent figure in the Roman Empire. But in the Roman Empire, contrary to the Persian and Indian tradition, somehow it went underground. It became a secret society with initiation, with grades, with different levels of knowledge. And all of a sudden, this Mithra figure with his head became some sort of, like a recognition amongst elites. And this is where the open religion became sort of like quite literally an underground mystery practice.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to show you.
I personally think from this, we're looking at the core of what became the occult, especially with the later Roman Empire, the adoption of Christianity from paganism, realizing that the elites could not beat Christianity, so they pretend to join them while worshipping the occult behind the scenes.
Yes, very, very, very interesting. So I try to kind of, condense everything into today's doodle that I produced. So we have Mithra here that is on top of the bull. And as we've said, there's definitely a link to Persia, even though it's not the same, not completely the same religion. But out of Persia, there is the contract Mithra that was brought into the Turkish region, and we know that in Turkey we had something like something called the Pontus civilization, which basically till 1927 was a Greek enclave. There was a Greek colony inside of Turkey, and only with the advent of Atatürk, Kemal Atatürk, who technically ended the Ottoman state and turned it into a secular republic, he kicked out all the Greeks and sent them back to Thessaloniki, even though Kemal Atatürk was raised in Greece, in Thessaloniki, and kind of created this pure, quote unquote, pure Turkish state. So till the 20th century, there were a lot of Greeks living in the southeastern part of Turkey. And
there's a lot of data to back it up, because Cyprus is a great example. An enclave that was full, and still is, full of Greeks and Turks, so much so that the north of the country is a Turkish stronghold, the south of the country is a Greek stronghold. I happen to know this as a Brit because the British have 2 military bases on Cyprus that happen to be our territory. So, Turkey, man, how that country was formed would be a show in that of itself. Taking on Britain, France, Greece,
all of them.
To an extent, the Armenians and the fighting Russians with their civil war. That'd be a show in that of itself.
Turkey is a highly interesting topic. Again, we all tend to believe, Europe is so ancient and the republics of Europe are so old. That's all nonsense. All republics in Europe are fairly new. They're quite recent, and our not so recent past in Europe was way more colorful, way more mixed than what we see it right now. And borders weren't so sharp and delineated like they are right now. So we had, like I said, we had those Ponto Greeks, and Ponto means literally bridge, right? So we had these bridge Greeks living in the southeastern part of Turkey, and they adopted this Mithra cult quite quickly. They loved this idea of having this redeemer with his disciples that was bringing, twice a year, bringing good fruit to the people and illumination and all that, and they were taking away his sins. So in a way, Mithra was also a predecessor of Dionysus, what we have there. Again, the same cult. We looked at Dionysus in our last episode, Handbags of the Gods, where Dionysus was the one with the pine cone staff, right? One of the leaders of the Elysian mysteries and all that. And so in this culture of, Turkish and Greek people mixed with Armenian people, like I said, this Persian cult of Mithra had a deep impact. And it's quite interesting how these mystery cults were formed also out of this area. Now, interesting enough, to just add on that, the city where these these Ponto Greeks, these enclave Greeks lived was called Tarsus, which of course means bull. And, and the city Tarsus is right next to Mount Taurus, which is of course the Bull Mountain. So we had the Bull City and the Bull Mountain just next to each other, where those Greeks lived that adopted this bull killing god, right? That was called the Redeemer back then, with this funny looking head. And Phrygia was a part of Western Turkey where this head actually came from. And there's out of the city of Sardis, and we will talk about, the interesting connection there between the Phrygians and the Ponto Greeks, and how they adapted this mystery cult, this contract with the stars.
I do want to mention something which I thought was
Sure.
very interesting. So the portrayal of Mithra as overpowering the bull, and I apologize if you hear some random barking. That's my fucking neighbor's dog. It just decided to go fucking insane. But if you
Why
hear it,
have
just
you
know it's
stolen your neighbor's dog, Dragon?
I haven't. Their house
sells
is like
them.
real near. God damn it, y'all making me look.
Why are you
I'm sort of
selling
getting-
dogs? What kind of human being are you, man?
Oh shit!
Such-
No,
I
no.
will say though
Don't
that
listen to them.
as
Don't
much as
listen.
I admire Coach's artwork, Crete is in. Where
Yes,
the fuck
it's in
is
the wrong.
Crete?
It's in the wrong position because I was writing stuff down here. I place it down there. You are completely right.
Colonel
Cyprus is
Gaddafi
more or
got a
less in the
massive
right.
magnet from Libya to just pull Crete towards his country. The dragon you were slaying.
I know. I know.
Oh
I
no,
know.
no. I was
slaying.
just trying to.
Mm.
No, I was
Not
trying to
slaying,
say.
slaying. Mm.
Oh, okay, sure. Well, what I was going to mention is like the whole depiction of Mithras overpowering the bull. You got to understand that for the longest time in these ancient cultures, the bull had the significance of kingly power, or just overall like the core essence of masculinity, strength, leadership, whatever you can think of, right? All the powerful traits. And if Mithra is the messenger, okay, the one who relays between, one god and the other, then
Yes.
it should be easy to say that he is both the Hermes and the Thoth that overpowered, if you could say, the animalistic self
Yes.
with the higher self. And
Yes.
because that's something that is always God damn it, Dax and R. See what you did now, motherfuckers here think I'm going after dogs. God damn it! I'm
He's a
trying to-
dragon.
trying to-
Hey, no one clip him saying that. No.
Oh
no,
my
don't do that.
god! No, you don't. But yeah, no. I always thought it was very interesting how the Mithras is depicted like that,
Mhm.
and it does go further into that point of this is the higher self because, or Mithras is depicted as the emissary of the higher self because the hat depicts its divine origin, but at the same time he's in a physical body, so because he is the balance in between him and he's the balance between the heavens above and the earth below, where the bull or the ego resides. So by him
Yes.
existing is sort of defined as the conquest of the ego. And hello, Gooch, how you doing?
The
Gooch is joined.
gooch.
Yes.
Yo, yeah, we're talking about Persia all the time, so of course the Persian man needs to show up. I mean, it makes
Persian
totally
Canadian.
sense. The Persian
Pre-
Canadian.
Pre-Abrahamic civilization and belief systems, folks, is a fascinating topic that we don't really know much about because the Abrahamic faiths have done their best, even to this day, to squash these histories out of existence, especially the Islamic world.
Yes.
Given that they
Yeah.
now control the vast majority of the regions that we
Right.
are talking about. But this kind of connection, this kind of history, which has been lost to time by the Abrahamic faith systems, needs to be talked about, needs to be shown to as many people as
Yeah.
possible.
So
But
we
it's
also
really old. But
Yeah,
the
no-
thing is, like, I do want to mention, like, the pre-Abrahamic religions learned this from the much older Sumerians. Let's not forget that, okay? They learned this from the much older
Dragon.
Sumerians.
You look at all these civilizations mentioned, all these areas: Persia,
Yeah.
Arabia, Fricka or Frika, whatever you call it, Greece, Rome, all of them are now affected by the belief systems of today.
Phrygia? Oh, Phrygia.
Phrygian.
The belief systems of that era no longer exist in nearly the same fashion as they did before the rise of course, Judaism, then Christianity, then Islam. So it is very important to highlight that these events did take place, these belief systems did make manifest, and it's a good job that some of these places are still around today, especially Armenia, despite Turkey's best efforts. And it keeps that history alive.
Armenia is a very fascinating country, and it plays a very important role, more than most people might assume, and also in world politics and world religion development. The Ashkenazi, the people that are now living in in the Near Eastern border, and also in the land that we call Israel, the Ashkenazi population, they're Armenoids, right? So they're coming out of this Caucasian region where they inbred with the Armenians. So they gave birth to one of the most powerful, populations and kingdoms, and they highly influenced the Turkish area, and also, of course, everything that is, beyond the Caucasus. And we're gonna talk about that definitely, and also in one of our episodes. Coming back just to understand the bull, like Dragon Slayer commentaries, we also have a beautiful analogy in the Bible, right? When Moses leaves the people for a couple of days to talk on Mount Sinai, just a couple of to kind of discuss a couple of details with God. When he comes back, they worshipped Apis, right? The golden bull again. So the bull was always the incarnation of power, of natural force. And back in the days, being a ruler strong like a bull, a tyrannus, was a good thing. Like later that became the tyrant, so with a negative connotation. But back in the days, being a ruler like a bull meant that you were a just, a very strong, a very powerful ruler, a tyrannus. So the idea of what we also discussed in Handbanks of the Gods, that all these cultures and civilizations back then, they identified with the passing of the celestial events. So when you had one constellation that was ruling the precession of the equinoxes, they would worship that animal on Earth as well, and they would identify with that animal being, let's say, the mascot of that ruling era. So the Greeks were using the bull, the Egyptians were using the ram, and the Romans later were using the twins. And these are all, celestial signs that were predominant in that period when those kingdoms that worshiped them were ruling planet Earth. So it's kind of interesting how the celestial events and the physical events were always heavily linked to each other.
Great to see everyone in the chat.
Yes,
hopefully
absolutely.
You're all enjoying the show. Like, share, subscribe to this fine gentleman. Criminally underrated as we penetrate deep into the lore of pre-Abrahamic civilization.
So believe it or not, the first time this cult actually gets mentioned, and I'm sure the Vatican has this play in there, right? Because it's very rare that you find some actual data about them like being mentioned, besides the cap that unites them all, right? There is Plutarch, who was a Platonist, and he was around in the Flavian area, and somebody who studies Roman history knows the Flavians are responsible for our gospel, for our Bible, for our Jesus, for the whole description of they built the amphitheater, the Colosseum. They were the first bishops, the first holy men. They were all declared by the Flavians. So Plutarch, Joseph, the Flavians, they managed everything. We're talking about the Jewish Roman War. So it was around that time when Plutarch mentions this Mithraic cult, and there are many huge temples of Mithra beneath the soil in Rome that you can find today. Strangely enough, it's very hard to visit them, but he mentions that the mystery cult of Yes, yeah, it's very it's very
Why?
interesting.
Like, is it just don't want to? Or
They
is it
just
cold?
don't want to, and we today we're gonna
There's-
also show. I
There's
think
not
why.
I think the reason is
Mm.
the reason is twofold. One, there's not enough interest, and two, of the interest that's there, it's heavily suppressed. We're
It is.
dealing with records and histories, folks. The three great religions of planet Earth don't want us to go digging into.
Yes.
Why?
Yes.
Because the Abrahamic faiths, I always like to bring this up, but the Abrahamic faiths as one over time, despite the fact that they hated each other,
Yes.
all in their own way worked to destroy these civilizations, whether
Yes.
it's Persia, Greece, Egypt, or even Rome itself, both the Roman Republic, then the Roman Empire, then the split, and then the fall of
You could
Byzantium.
no,
Well,
no,
the
you're
Roman
right.
Empire, I do want to mention one thing, right?
Sure.
So the Roman Empire was different. So the Roman Empire, the Flavians had two choices, and this is on record anyway. The Flavians had two choices: either they completely suppressed the newly risen religious cult of the one they called the Christ, like crushed it like you would crush a rebellion, or infiltrate it and throw in your own shit, your own religious beliefs, merge it, make people think that
Yes.
you're becoming part of the system. In reality, you're morphing it from the inside little by little until now. Jesus to the ancient Romans would have been the equivalent of Zeus or
Yes.
Ares, if you will, like any equivalent of that. So
Apollo
Apollo.
or Mithra.
No, sorry, the
or-
Roman equivalent. I forgot their fucking names. There's so many names. Saturn, I think it is.
It's Jupiter.
Jupiter, yeah.
Yeah.
So like they would have come up with that. They chose the latter because they knew that's
And
how they would survive and
we
control.
know the Flavians wrote the Gospels, right?
They did. They had a council about it. Like, go
right.
figure.
Joseph the elderly is Joseph ben Mattea. He is one of the zealots that they brought in from the Jewish community because he's the one who refused to kill himself, right? And he said, "I can help you guys, right, to kind of bring peace to the region." And he had this ingenious idea: instead of killing them all and kind of go on with this war ad infinite, they say, why don't we create a Messiah that kind of brings everybody to the table and everybody is happy about it? And so this is when they sat down, and the Flavians, they were super smart. Again, we're talking about the first bishops of Rome, the first saints. They created this whole Roman Catholic Church construct as an organization that we can perceive today. They were the builders and the founders of that, but they did it in order to hegemonize and to bring peace to the Middle East, but also, of course, to kind of reinforce their status quo, because they were bringing the Holy See from Petra, from Palestine, from Jerusalem down to Rome, but they needed a very strong fundament as a narrative. They needed a very strong story in order to kind of cement that and kind of give people a reasonable motive why now the Holy See should be in Rome. And we will talk about that too.
Yeah, we will talk about that, and
interesting.
also, yeah, it is very interesting. We will talk about that some more, but also just about the fact that it seems that if you a lot of holy books, but especially the Christian one, there is this thing where, like, everybody knows deep down inside, if you do a little bit of research, there were a lot of writers. Like, I'm sorry to tell you this, but like, even the most devoted,
Yes.
religious people in history or scholars, they are biased in one way or another. Even if
Of
they don't
course.
admit it, even if they don't see it themselves,
Of
there's
course.
always that bias.
Before the internet,
But that's
Dragon,
Yes.
there was the Bible.
Yeah.
And before the Bible, there were scrolls that were like
Papyrus
thousands of
and-
years old, and somebody
and-
fucking burned them or killed whoever knew about
I
them. and they
wonder
kept those
why,
scrolls
right?
locked away. Go figure. It's like internet misinformation. They fucking try to ban your ass, but
Right.
unlike back then, you have no screenshots or archive sites.
So
Well,
Oh, yeah.
barely anyone knows anything about pre-Abrahamic civilizations, so
That's
it can't
true.
be banned when no one kicks up a fuss about it.
Yeah,
True.
but it's true. Like these, like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, the Abrahamic religion. So Islam, Judaism, and Christianity. They come. You know, these three offsprings. They try to fight that pagan nature of religion, and that there is something about the essence of religion and belief and spiritual belief that is not made out of any rule book, and they wanted to kind of structurize and organize religion in a way more civilized way. So you could say that the Abrahamic religion represent the civilizations, the three powerful civilizations that grew out of it, and that everything prior to that was the natural understanding of what religion was, of what the stars kind of gave us, and what the true meaning of these celestial events were. And Plutarch tells us very, very clearly, like, this new Mithrae cult came into Rome by the Cilician pirates. And the Cilician pirates, they came to power in the Mediterranean basin because by the time Romans were so entrenched with their own civil wars and also with what was going on in Jerusalem that they couldn't control all their outposts and forts alongside the Mediterranean Sea. And the Cilician pirates, you could say that the Cilician pirates were to the Pontus Greeks what the East India Company was to the British Empire, right? So the Cilician pirates were a fleet, a very highly organized, super powerful fleet of 20,000 men who, presided over 400 cities and had over 4,000 ships. And they were kind of working together with these Pontus Greeks, the bridge Greeks, who, of course, called themselves Mithridates, right? So Mithridates the Sixth is the blessing of Mithra. And he teamed up with this Cilician pirates, and then he told them, listen, look at this Mediterranean basin. It kind of, it's up to us of conquering it. And so while Rome was, kind of submerged by its own affairs, they took control of the Mediterranean, and Pompeius, one of the great generals of Rome, forced them to move to South Italy. He defeated the Cilician pirates, but through South Italy, they kind of got hold of the southern part, which was back then the most powerful part of the Roman Empire. And so they infiltrated with her Mithrae cult the belief system of what the Roman society was at that time kind of believing in. And remember, guys, Roman society was an offspring of Greek society, which was an offspring of Minoan society, which was an offspring of Near Eastern society, which again was a combination of Persian, Assyrian, Mesopotamian, Egyptian society. So it's all a syncretic belief system. It was all a fusion of different worldviews, religious views, belief systems, and different practices.
The ancient world was all connected from start to its ultimate end with the destruction and split of the Roman Empire. And what caused the age of antiquity to end and the Middle Ages to come, also known as the Dark Ages, and to me, it is the rise of Christianity in the European world, and then it really did kick off with the rise of Islam in Arabia, and then it spread like a plague across all of the known world, and that's what caused the Crusades and then the various conflicts of that period. Then the Mongols come along, so they can have a fucking go and do to the Muslims what the Muslims did to the Christians. But the point is, folks, the ancient world was connected. The ancient era from start to finish, as seen eloquently put by this fine gentleman in illustrated form. But the Dark Ages, the Middle Ages, really is, in my view, the manifestation of the Abrahamic faiths. Although the most of them, two of them out of the three, started in the ancient era.
So Plutarch tells us that, quite the contrary to how it was practiced in the beginning as an open religion through Persia and India and everything that was in between that area, up to the Pontus Greeks and Tarsus, close to the Taurus mountain system. The Romans, of course, being elitarian motherfuckers, and kind of saw a very interesting feature inside of that Mithraic cult and also where it come from. So let's remember, the Mithraic cult was brought into Rome by the Cilician pirates, which were some sort of an East Indian company. You could also say free traders. Pirates are nothing else than free traders, like Vikings, right? Vikings are not barbarians with an axe who just rape women. They were free traders. They established an incredible trade empire. And the same thing the Cilician pirates did. And they built these underground, worship places then in southern Italy, and the Roman adopted that, especially the military, and they started to creating this great system where the 7 grades or the 7 initiation grades of the Mithraic religion were born. And of course, this was already some sort of like a para-Masonic or free-Masonic type of cult, right? So we're talking about an exclusive club of only men, only everybody coming out of elite type of system with different initiation grades that were reflecting the planets, and only if you were part of that ladder of initiation, you could get access to higher mysteries, to more secret, and of course also to more privileges. And so I want to explain really quick that these 7 grades were, like shown here, attributed, the first one to the crow, which was connected to the planet Mercury. The second was the nymphess, androgynous character. It's the groom, but it could also be the bride. And that, of course, was attributed to the planet Venus. The third grade was the soldier, right, which, of course, is the planet Mars, representing the god of war, Ares, or Mars for the Romans. The fourth grade was Leo, which was attributed to Jupiter because he's the king of the gods. And so being the king of the jungle, because some people could believe, well, he should be attributed to the sun. But the fourth grade was attributed to the king of gods, Jupiter. The fifth was the Persian grade. So already here, by what the Romans were giving them as names, you could see the connection to the old Persian origin. The sixth grade was the Heliodromus. We covered that in our Greek mythology, open class doodle, which is the sun chariot driver. He's the one who's, kind of driving and steering the sun chariot, which is, of course, the sun itself. And then the seventh, and the most important, and of course, we're always coming back to the big boy, right, to the Lord of the Rings, was the pater, or father grade, Peter, the priest, the interpreter. And that is, of course, the Lord of the Rings, which is Saturn, right, which is the initiator and the ender of life, because it's time. So all of a sudden, out of this open religion, there was this super secret cult that was born underground, that was kept alive by these high military officials in Rome until the 5th century AD. These Roman officials and officers and high-ranking generals built temples of Mithra in Rome and around Rome. Actually, one of the biggest temples is dedicated to the god Mithra. The only thing is that Mithra was worshipped in the underworld, right, beneath the soil. And so therefore, a lot of what we call catacombs and, burial places were actually ritual places of worship. And they were not there to bury the dead, but to kind of let them ascend into heavens and, to the reincarnation and the excarnation process that was twice practiced throughout the year during the equinox. That was the actual purpose of these underground facilities. It wasn't just to bury anyone. They could just dig up, a ditch and throw people in there. They were creating these Mithraias, these are underground facilities to have secret initiations, not to bury any corpses.
And the Egyptians had a similar process when they buried their dead, especially their leaders. In that respect, it was more than just going to the afterlife, ladies and gentlemen. That ritualistic behavior, can't spell or speak rather. That behavior is remarkably common among those who are not just ritualistic, but engage in secret society practices.
And there is another quick thing that I want to mention. The Bank of England, one of the most powerful banks in the world, was brought to paper first and then built later by many people. But the originator of that concept was Sir Christopher Wren, W-R-E-N, who started building after the Great Fire of London in 1666 the Bank of England. And the Bank of England, you can look this up, is built on a Mithra sacrifice ritual place. So if you just walk down and you get access to the basement because you're the owner or you're one of the elitists there, you can go to a Mithra temple that is beneath the Bank of England, which again kind of connects this trade aspect of this religion. It's secretive, it has to do with elite people, and it comes from commerce, it comes from trade, it comes from, not only worshiping, of course, the heavens, but understanding how to rule the earth through commerce and money.
And the idea of that being financially based is one of the key connections between the end of antiquity until the modern day. And the ancient belief systems and states of the past were not nearly as financially based as states of today, because empires usually would rise and fall by the sword, by the barter, and by the agriculture. Trade and commerce in that respect not really it didn't really develop until the peak of the Romans, and then it evolved quite significantly into the Dark Ages, also known as the Middle Ages. But the Bank of England connection is very important, and it just we need to recognize that eras do change, and we are moving away from that financially based era today, especially through the rise of robotics, artificial intelligence, and technological development.
Web3 and blockchain. Yes, absolutely. That's very interesting what you're linking up there. And definitely, I mean, we could, not a couple of episodes we still have to share.
We could probably talk about that too in some other time. But I find it fascinating you mentioned that there is a literal Mithraic ritual site underneath a very important bank.
And mind you, this is no coincidence, because the old city of London burned down in the alleged Great Fire that accidentally broke out, right? We know that wasn't the case.
It was a filth hole before it was set on fire. So
the story just sounds crazy. A bakery.
A bakery, sure. Yeah. And they say the same thing about Munich, about all these ancient cities that burned down, through a bakery. It's like, sure.
Always the most random shit ever.
So it was planned, right? The fire was planned, and all these other fires, all the world expositions that burned down, even though they were built out of glass.
Great Fire of Rome, you remember?
Great Fire of Rome, Great Fire of Chicago.
What's crazy? The Great Fire of Rome, I am 100% sure somebody was drunk as fuck in the palace and they set shit on fire. And then the
funny thing is, the marble from 6,000 years ago is still standing in Rome, but the city burned down. I mean, it's weird how granite, obsidian, and all these limestones and marble burns. What we see here is a Mithraic floor that was unearthed in Capua in southern Italy. And very interesting here, you can...
the swallow, and is that the cup of life?
This is the crow. This is the first initiation grade of the Mithraic cult. And here we have the Mercury staff, right? The caduceus, right? So the planet Mercury, and this is the cup. So it's very interesting. And here you can see the other 7 grades that were, of course, also... connected to the planets. I want to give you, though, a better picture of something which I found really interesting, because in the United States, the Phrygian cap is called Liberty Cap, and also in France. And I never understood this connection. It's like, why all of a sudden you call it Liberty Cap? Now, this is what I got here. I will remove this really quick. I will show you. This is the 7th This is the 7th grade of initiation of the Mithraic cult. And look at this.
Oh my.
Yeah. It's a golden halo with a torch, yeah. And is that supposed to be a wand or a
This is the
right.
torch
The
of
Statue of Liberty, Dragon.
no, I know that. I'm talking about the little the whip looking thing.
So this is the whip.
Control
This
the
is
slaves, Dragon. They got rid of that with the post-Civil War DLC retraction.
mind you, part of the Mithraic elite in Rome were also so-called slaves. We have a wrong idea, semantically speaking, of what slaves were, and also in today's time, right? There was a contract that was called intenditude servitude. So most of these people were under contract. The Mithra means contract. So we have the whip here to control the slaves, but it's also to control the contract. These people were hired, they were given money, and afterwards they were given also land. So they could, of course, produce their own fruits and their own good. So we have
the ancient people. Sorry, but that's how,
absolutely.
But that's how it was in many ancient cultures. Like there always was a god or a tradition that said that the form of slavery that existed back then was not how it later turned out near our time, like 2 maybe 4 centuries ago. Back then, slavery was, as you said, just a contract. It was a contract. The only reason you went into slavery was because you owed somebody a debt you couldn't pay, so you were going to pay through years of servitude, or you were captured and you were going to serve your master, and if your master felt so inclined, they would free you and grant you land and possibly even proper marriage prospects and citizenship. And did
anyone else just hear a gigantic whistle while Dragon was speaking?
That might be. My neighbor's kids are fucking playing outside.
How the fuck am I supposed to turn this into a video when you've got fucking stuff like that? So someone's just listening to this conversation and then out of fucking nowhere, just a fucking whistle out of nowhere.
What are you doing? Where are you living, Dragon? What kind of cavern?
In a fucking suburban neighborhood where
in a Latino zoo.
No Latinos do, motherfucker. No, this is where the rich white people live at. Okay.
You're like Bono, right? You want to live with the rich people. You don't want to get rid of. Yeah.
No, but to get back on track is like I'm trying to move my mic as far away from this fucking window so it doesn't grab the sound. But
maybe you should close your windows.
I closed them and I have the blinds on. But the thing is, the way this house is designed, oh my god, whatever. Anyway. So
no, do go on, Dragon. How is your house designed?
Oh my god, no! Fuck you! I don't want to get
a king.
No, but I do want to mention that I find it very interesting that with the cult of Mithras, everything is based off of contracts and servitude, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was going to mention it with the Bank of England. I find it very interesting in that aspect because it's like, they, descendants of the old ways are supposedly being the mediators between wealth and the human being, and the way they perform business or conduct business is by forming contracts with you in the form of bank accounts, and that they swear to uphold the oath of making sure your money is safe and sound. It's funny. It's like everything is so connected in the form of a contract. And then you go back and you look real deep into this and you're like, well, shit, this is very similar. What else is a fucking contract? My birth certificate?
Yes, indeed. Exactly.
No.
It's called British Admiralty Maritime Law. We're gonna talk about this in another open. If we still live by that day,
it's like it's very interesting.
No, that's the last grade of the Mithraic initiation cult, right? And again, we see the all-seeing eye. Very interesting. Here already connected to Saturn, the Eye of Sauron, the Watchtower, right? This is where the concept come from. The magic wand. And this is also 1 and 0, right? This is the binary code. This is man and this is female. This is Adam and this is Eve. Then we have the Phrygian cap with the serpent, which is, of course, leaned into the Persian Egyptian mysteries. And very interesting, the sickle sword, because back then, the sickle sword is associated, of course, the moon felt set, and all these swords back then, the druids were using those, right? This is also connected to the ancient lore. The straight sword of Michael, that is the sword of liberty and liberation, that is very modern. Back in the days, swords were always depicted with a slight curve because swords were believed to be forged best when it was full moon. So they were always representing the moon goddess, and also they were able to cut mistletoes, herbs, and very important mushrooms out of the ground. So swords had also a ritual function and weren't just armed weapons of attack and defense. And so therefore you have those. It's very fascinating to me that we see the four major symbols here and collected in the last grade of initiation of the Mithraic cult in Rome: the eye, the magic wand, the baton, the Phrygian cap, and the sickle sword of Saturn.
Now, for all you Americans out there who are culturally deficient, one is a stabby sword. The hat is the magic hat.
Stabby.
The
I got classic cages in the house. She is the stabby.
The wand is a penis, and the eye is a vagina.
Cage, don't listen to him. You've missed like an entire enlightening conversation and explanation, and then fucking Ryan here goes like,
He always
"For
has
you
to.
Americans, it's all stabby, penis, and shit."
The
No, but-
life giver, the life giver, the life creator, the magic hat
Oh my
of
God.
power, and the sword that enforces said magic hat of power.
Yes, and we
Maybe
also
this
have Harry Potter here. Of course, we have the eye,
Sorting Hat.
right? The eye of the Palantir. I say it now in in Lord of the Rings terms, but you have the eye, the crystal ball, the magic wand. You have the cap of invisibility. And we have the sickle sword that you need in order to collect, the herbs. Like think of the giant, right? That collects the right stuff and mixes his magic portion. So
The Soviets really like that fucking sickle. I won't lie. They
Yeah.
really like to harvest shit.
yes,
Not the right
and
kind though.
when I saw this the first time, I thought like this it's so like this is over 2,000, almost 2,500 years old. This is Mithraic cult in Rome. We have the Liberty Torch, and now we also know why the Mithraic or the Phrygian cap is called Liberty Cap in the United States. We have the 7 thorns, right? The spikes of the crown. This is the solar crown, of course. And we have the whip that later became the book, right?
You know what's crazy?
Because it's the contract.
I always wondered like how to best signify this, but literally, oh man, yes. Actually, before I do that, Ryan, could you please help Dax and R out, please? Just help him out.
Well, it's quite simple, my good man. America is the great successor of the cult of Mithra, the last great force of which was the Roman Empire. I know the British tried to put their own system in place. That's for another show. But essentially, ladies and gentlemen, the ancient world was destroyed by an unholy alliance of the Abrahamic faiths, which then fought for supremacy against one another during the Dark Ages. Then they all got fucked over by soulless heathens in the Age of Science, which has brought us to today.
There
Yes,
we go. That's actually
pretty good
pretty
recap.
accurate.
Really
That's basically as dumbed down as we can get. Yeah.
yeah, but it's
Appreciate it, Ryan. That's pretty good.
Abraham destroyed the ancient world, and soulless fuckers destroyed the Abrahamic world, and now the soulless fuckers are ruled by aliens who are trying to destroy us all with wokeness. That's why no one understands it. It's an alien idea.
I mean, I will say this, like, now that you're mentioning,
Ted was warning you all. Ted was warning all of you of this alien idea. The Industrial Revolution has been a disaster for
Oh,
the
don't get
human
me-
race.
Don't get me fucking started aliens, because then I can go like, oh shit, well there's good and bad ones. But no,
Coach,
we're not
please
gonna get into that.
continue.
We're not, yeah, no. Let me. Well, hold on. I'm gonna talk about this now because I was gonna mention this. I always find it fascinating, like that prior image you showed, because for people coming in later, like Cage. Let me put it this way: that image you saw earlier was a very ancient mosaic depiction of the cult of Mithras. Basically, we have the seven-pointed star sun halo to basically signify dominance over all the spiritual realms that govern above and below. Then we have the torch signifying that, he who leads all, and is he who leads all from darkness into light, or in other words, signifying that whoever dons the symbol is leading people into supposedly enlightenment, or that they are aware of the truth of all. And then the whip that later became, I believe you said, a book. Is that correct?
Yes,
The whip that later became a book is to signify the master of all below him. Basically is a way to signify the shepherd of all, the enlightened teacher, the superior master of all.
And the contract that you have,
exactly.
right? It's helping to enforce the contract, because Mithra literally means contract.
Exactly. So basically, this would be the holy contract master.
This is not a coincidence, ladies and gentlemen. Mithra controls America.
Yeah,
I mean, that kind of mindset, that kind of aesthetic, doesn't just come out of nowhere.
Yes,
it's not a
and
coincidence.
It's saying that like if anyone that dons that symbol or imagery that is honoring that former symbol, supposedly, if we go down that rabbit hole, is saying we follow the teachings of the master. We are by his teachings, we are masters of basically lesser men.
yes,
It fucking sucks for me to say it, but it's how it sounds.
No wonder America and the Western world is always on top, because it has a deep core connection to the beginning of human civilization.
yes.
No matter if that connection is very flimsy, the symbolism alone of this Mithra cult that dates back to before the days of Abraham still has that symbolistic connection through the Statue of fucking Liberty, of all things, the most iconic building in all of American history. That just come out.
It was bronze too. Remember that thing?
Right.
The
and
Statue
was
of
built
Liberty
by the
is
French, right?
By the French,
that's, and if you look at Eiffel, the builder also of the Tour Eiffel, who was a Freemason, who was part also of the Order of Temple of Orient. And inside of that Freemason group of the Order of Temple of Orient, the OTO, which Eiffel was one of the most prominent members of, there was, of course, the Persian grade and the Mithra grade inside of that. So they themselves were some sort of, spawns of that in very ancient primordial Mithra cult. And they brought the Phrygian cap, they brought it also to America. Now, calling it Liberty Cap. I will show you a couple of what you see here is also the thunderbolts of the gods, and this very interesting. It's another topic in itself, but again, like the Mithraic cult is also interestingly connected to the free energy cult of back then. We see similar symbolism being used also in ancient Egypt, and this long was suspected to be some sort of a spider, people assume, but we know exactly that it stands
looks a bit
for
like a syringe, Coach.
Yeah, a syringe, but
it does.
Like that candle you showed me the last time we did this, the candle that had leaves growing around it. That looked like a syringe as well. My goodness.
Dungeon, man. Hey, we appreciate
that's
that
about
you're
it.
enjoying
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's about that. It's about kind of realizing all these very fascinating connections. We don't claim to have all the answers, all the truths, or everything, but what we try to do here is like what Ryan magnificently said, right? We try to shed some light into some dark corners of our ancient and not so ancient past to kind of connect the dots and see maybe even politics, belief systems, all these structures, all these strange happenings and occurring sometimes, maybe through a connected light and kind of understanding that somehow that there is a reason for all this stuff to happen. It's not just a coincidence. It's not just happening out of, the blue sky and just falling to the ground, right? It's there are, motivations for certain things to happen. And some of these motivations are as ancient as the Mithraic cult.
And I do want to mention something. If I could put it in more American terms, we see that you're out here building a mad good Lego set, but half your pieces are missing, and we're basically throwing the missing pieces at you, putting them on the table, and then saying, "Hey, there's some more Lego pieces here. Might be for another set that you might be interested if you like this set." That's all we're doing. We're just trying to present
this
everything.
conversation is only possible, ladies and gentlemen, because so many people. We've gotten to a stage where so many people do not trust the establishment that conversations like this are finally possible. I mean, the establishment had its time at the beginning of, the 19th, 20th century. And the 21st century was not supposed to be theirs. That's why there was a great change, a great conflict at the beginning of this century. They're living on borrowed time. It's supposed to be our time now. The age of the creator. Not just, content creator, but creator.
I like that.
The age
like
of,
that.
of Aquarius, and the age. I think it's like the age of Aquarius, and supposedly the age of
the 20th century.
Yeah.
Well, the 20th century, especially, ladies and gentlemen, I would dare say it's the age of destruction. The 21st century should be the age of creation.
I mean, it is. It is going to be that, but like at first there will be a destruction, but not in the way that people think, like natural catastrophes and fucking atomic war. More like a destruction of old systems and ideas that will organically shift into more positive ones as followers of the old establishment simply die off.
Communists once said the same as you did, Dragon, 100 years ago when they first founded the Soviet Union.
Well, I didn't
the old ways and the coming of a brave new world.
Yes, but
I didn't fucking kill people when they disagreed. That's the difference. That's the difference, and I didn't make them poor as fuck.
I would. But that's always a belief system, right? Even the communists that are claiming that this is not a religion and that religion is opium to the masses, of course it's a religion in a dystopian future, and they claim to create some sort of a earthly paradise for workers where all live together in this idyllic, kind of society. What is that? That's heaven on earth. That's what you're trying to propagate there is some sort of it's an Elysium, right? You're trying to give people this religious idea that all coming together as a collective can create this utopian society. Again, this is a belief system. It's a religion in itself. Even if you don't like churches as a communist, nonetheless you have gods. And you installed these demigods to kind of reinforce this system of belief that once we all give up our goods, right, and we create this new paradise on earth, and we all can be set free, and we don't need religion anymore. But this is it's a surrogate religion, if you want to call it so. Communism is a surrogate religion. Coming back to
something that's the issue, ladies and gentlemen.
Of course,
there's no such thing as a creature. Or a human, rather, that believes nothing. Even those mud hut dwellers in Africa believe something, and hopefully they believe it strong enough that they'll be able to make a 2-story building. The point is, if you believe in nothing, nothing will believe in you. Those who have no belief system, whether it's an individual or a society at large, will always be defeated by a person or a belief system that is of the faithful. Doesn't matter if it's an ancient faith or a current one or a belief system of any kind. And yes, that's why cults form. And when they have time enough to mature, and assuming they don't destroy themselves, they become a culture. It's a mix of cult and mature that creates culture, a mix of history and religion, or history and belief in that respect. That's why I always criticize the establishment when they criticize cults, when everything has a beginning. Every culture starts as a cult, then it matures, becomes a culture, and it usually matures by killing the previous culture. As we clearly see here, the ancient world was annihilated not by Islam, but by, first of all, infiltrated through Judaism. That's a little bit on the nose. And then completely transformed through Christianity. And there was a mix and match of both. Then Islam came along, upset the apple cart, and the Dark Ages really got a whole lot darker. And Sub-Saharan Africa wasn't even in the picture back then.
No,
they had their own shit to deal with. And I do want to mention something interesting. Is like, the thing about religions, as I've seemed to come to understand it right now, is that with religions, I believe at their origin, like we're talking like their furthest origin possible, no dogma, okay, just at its core, they seem to be just general guidelines that were used, not forced on people, more like they were used as a way to give people pointers, to remind them. And the statues, by the way, that were made of these so-called gods were not made in order so that some person would just kneel down before them and worship them and sing praises to them. More like they were made as a physical reminder, okay, to the person in that physical realm to understand and remember that their origins come not only from below where they're at, but also from above. And that the thing, what?
I have received a sign. Part of my structure just collapsed, which is a sign that I have disrespected the Lord of Abraham.
I have received a sign as well. Next Saturday, the next acting masterclass, April 27, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can register directly on Eventbrite, down with the link that you see in the description box, or through my link tree on my Instagram, or contact me directly on Facebook, or just join this incredible society of magical creatives, Negroes, yellows, white, purples, and all the other races combined. April 27, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, noon, live on Zoom, final Q&A. We're going to break down the script because it's all about turning the word, the scripture, right, with the right culture, with the right analysis, into a performance, into a piece of art, into something magnificent. And it's going to be like an epiphany, like what we're presenting today. We're bringing everything together. So join our beautiful masterclass, April 27th, right on Zoom. And you can register very easily. It's for free. And it's going to be a hell load of incredible gold nuggets. If you're a performer, if you work with a script, if you're a public speaker, if you're an actor, you need to join the masterclass.
Do you want the Americanized version of that, folks? Do you want to make a living being a professional liar? Well, check out the COACHMC Studios free acting masterclass, where you can become a professional liar today and make a killing taking the piss and fleecing stupid Americans.
It's good to be befriended with Nietzsche. I love being befriended with Nietzsche. It's great to know Friedrich Nietzsche. It's really good.
I'm doing this in Germany, but they're just too smart over there. So we had to come to America to do it because you guys have at least 20 IQ points less.
By the divines. Yes.
For sure. Definitely, guys. Join us. And if you register, also show up. We have a lot of registrations already. Like every month, we're super pumped about that and super happy. But then also show up, be part of this. Don't be shy, right? It's about that. It's show business. So definitely come over, learn a lot, communicate, network. It's also a great chance to get to know other performers, other creators online. And, it's just a great way to kind of spice up your toolbox.
Well, if you are shy, ladies and gentlemen, just do what I'm doing right now.
Like this.
Arrive like
this. You can still participate. Right?
Yeah.
You can still participate.
You can act without showing your face or your mouth. You can be French. and to speak with your hands.
We see here in this very old depiction of the cavern, where a Mithra, a Mithraic, Mithraic, a Mithra, a Mithrain. I'm not quite sure how that devotional place beneath the earth is actually called as a noun. Is that a Mithraea? A Mithraic?
Well, I will say though, Coach, isn't English like your third language or something?
Right.
I mean, I was here before the show started, folks. And this guy was drawing away, listening to German at 1.5 speed, I think. Because it was a bit quick for a German. Yeah, he was all very serious, very professional, very sharp. He always does it. I always pop in before we start just to make sure everything's working. And he's just there, just working away. And it's almost as if he doesn't notice me and Dragon popping in, but he does. Very sharp, coaches. But he doesn't think in English.
No, I don't. It's a mixed thinking thing. I sometimes dream in English, that's for sure. I sometimes think in Italian, a lot of German, of course. Sometimes there's even it's weird. But what we see here in this grotto depiction, we see again Mithra with the celestial cape or the cloak, right? The cloak that is depicting the stars to kind of give us also the birthplace of Mithra, the god, right? Which is the heavens. This is Sol Invictus, right? The Roman. Yeah, you could say like we have Ra and Horus in Egyptian mythology, which of course is a mythology that was later on adopted by the Romans. That's why we have a giant Egyptian obelisk in front of St. Peter's. So you see the direct connections, and we have 13 Egyptian obelisks in Rome, and one in Washington, and one in St. Petersburg, and I think 10 in London. So of course the Egyptian connection is very strong. We will talk about that. But here, this is the Roman version of Ra, the spiritual sun, Sol Invictus, the invincible sun, or the planet Saturn. And here I want to point out what's interesting about this picture is two things. Mithra is always looking away from the bull that he's killing. That's very odd, right? Because if you're sacrificing something, right, you want to make sure that you want to kill this wild animal, that this animal doesn't stand up again and kills you, right? But he's always looking away, always looking to the sky, as if he's ashamed of what he's doing. That's one peculiar detail about the tauroctony. And always present in the tauroctony are the twins, Cauthus and Cauthopannus. And those are the light bearers or the torch bearers. This is where we get also the Statue of Liberty holding the torch. And as you can clearly see, one torch always points down to earth, and the other torch always points up to the heavens. So as above, so below. This is where we get this idea from in occultism and also in sorcery and black magic and all these other rituals and practices, that there is always one force pointing up, right? The triangle that is pointing up, and always one triangle pointing down. Cauthus and Cauthopannus always flanking Mithra, who is looking to Sol Invictus. Here we have the crow again. We have the snake. The dog is, of course, the star Sirius. And we have also the Scorpion constellation that we can't really see down here. So clearly, when we look at all these different windows here with these mystery depictions and these gods, this is very similar to what we sometimes see also in Egypt. Clearly, this is depicting celestial events. This is depicting a constellation. So, of course, if this is the constellation of Taurus, of the bull, and this is of the dog, then we have to identify if our forefathers of our D&T cultures that we're, kind of admiring, and all their incredible buildings that we are not able to duplicate or replicate, if they were all looking to the stars to get the referrals, then we should ask ourselves, where is this god actually coming from? Like, who is Mithra in the sky? what is this cap all about? And the two, torchbearers, what are they representing? And how were they adopted by our modern culture?
I mean, there are so many inspirations.
And Mithraeum, that's it. And Mithraeum, very good. Thank you.
When you look at the origin story of civilization until the present day, there are clear-cut eras across the board to explain how we got to where we are today. And we are really in uncharted territory, folks. We've had the capacity to do ourselves in publicly since 1945, and no one has been, reality-based enough to press that damn button and end it all, because there is a fear. There is an intrinsic fear that once that button is pressed, everything will end. Because without that fear, they would press it. I certainly would. If I was in their position and I had nothing to lose, get me that damn fucking red button.
I know this sounds so disappointing to everybody who believes in those spy movies, but this tale that we are full of intercontinental rockets and that we could annihilate planet Earth, I don't know, billions of times, this is just hocus pocus. It's not true. There are just a couple of rockets. Also, the whole idea of the rocket dome, of all these, it's actually a scam to get taxpayer money. There are no such things as thousands of intercontinental warheads. It's absolutely, it's just a way of putting pressure on us and getting mad.
Could you imagine if you were at Hypno's level now and all the journalists, the urinalists were watching this, and then they would just run headlines, insane conspiracy theorist doesn't believe in nuclear weapons, exposed!
They would just go they would have a field day, but then we would have an even bigger field day, But
they do that to Hypno in regards to pop culture.
Oh, yeah.
And
of course.
And before him, a good few years ago, they do the same for the likes of Nerdrotic, heel versus Babyface in regards to popular culture. But as more and more people find out that the establishment cannot be trusted as far as they can be thrown, and these are some big fuckers, folks, that's going to bleed into everything, including lost history. So within your lifetime, Coach, if you're still doing this in some capacity, don't be surprised if some mainstream media cocksucker accuses you of being unhinged because you do not believe there are thousands of nuclear weapons that can instantly be used and utilized.
Right. Well, I can't wait to get into that discussion and that debate. And they're probably not going to do it anyways. They will call me all sorts of things or try to defame me or put me into a corner because, of course, if you look at the evidence, then you have to admit it. And they don't like evidence. They don't like facts, right? This is a more recent picture, but again, it shows us that there is this connection of the white bull, the dog, Leo, constellation of Scorpio, the snake that is coming out of the Pandora's vase, and both light bearers again, Caoto and Caotopanus, one torch pointing down, one torch pointing up. We have the snake in the tree of enlightenment as well here. And again, Mithra is looking away from the bull. And I'm pointing this out a couple of times because now it's getting really, really curious. I know, guys, please bear with us. There's going to be, I'm trying to, put out all these mosaic pieces. We're going to collect them very soon. It will all make super sense. But I feel like this is very necessary to give you first some background and some context here, where this is all coming from, how it was adopted initially, and why people did this. I can't help but see links when I look at the freaking cab, right? Exactly.
Yes, it looks like links.
It's gonna, and also, of course, if you look at the, there is this cartoon series. It's called The Smurfs, I think, right in America, right? The Smurfs in Great Britain as well. Yeah, that's a Mithraic cap as well. You have a sorcerer, you have a black cat, and you have all the the Mithraic symbolism and tropes used again. The watchtower.
It's as if they want to tell us absolutely everything.
Yes.
but
Yes.
either we're not prepared for it, or once we're told, everything will go south, and a lot of bad things
Yeah.
will happen.
It should be
Yes.
done piecemeal. Yeah, I think it's all being done piecemeal because, like,
Because there are
people need to
there are
adapt
more
to
people
shit.
than ever before. It would have been far easier to have unveiled everything when there was
Well,
only a
that was the
billion
plan.
people on planet
That was
Earth in 1900 than it is today as we approach 9 billion people. Of course,
yeah.
a good chunk of them are third world nutcases who
Yeah.
aren't civilized,
Yeah.
but it would have
Oh,
been
God.
far easier to reveal all when there was less people.
But that
So-
was supposedly that seemed to be the plan, but then something happened along the way where it just became full on suppression. But go ahead, Coach. That's just that.
No, absolutely. Remember, right? So one branch of this huge tree of knowledge that kind of sheds light into the mystery of Mithra and the frickin' cap, right? Is definitely one of the roots is coming out of Persia, right? And we already discovered that the Mithraic cult was brought in by pirates, by free traders, right, into the Roman Empire that resided close to the city called Tarsus, which was, close to Mount Taurus. And this city, Tarsus, was also called Sandan, which was a city god for them, which actually means Perseus. And Sandan later became, in the Luvian region here in the western part, Santa. And actually we know that Santa Claus is an Armenian saint, right? So there is this connection of Santa Claus being Perseus, being this Armenian import, right? And Santa is... if this name Santa means translated the wheel of God or the bull of God, which again is Zeus, and this is how it got to Greece and then it got to Rome. But the very interesting thing is that Perseus, who married Andromeda, mother Cassiopeia, his son was Persis. Persis is the patriarch of all Persians. Right? He was the patriarch. He was the father of Ali, who then was father to Hassan and Hussein, also heavily connected to the lion, who then, gave birth to the Persian, to the Iranian Empire as we know it today. So there is this connection of Perseus and Mithra and this mountainous region and the city of Tarsus. And if everything here is a constellation, this is the bull, we have Kautos and Kautopanes, we have the dog, which is Sirius, we have the snake, we have Scorpio, which back then was Antares, then this most likely is a constellation as well. They are even telling us, because, if you look underneath the cloak, the lining of the cloak inside is always made out of stars. So they're telling us Mithra is a constellation as well. And there is just one constellation in the sky that represents everything I'm describing right now. And I'm going to show it to you right now. And it's quite incredible because, again, we're connecting the dots here. And so what we have here is the constellation of Perseus.
Ooh.
That is above the Taurus, that is above Orion, where we have Sirius. And above here, we have Cassiopeia, which is the mother of Andromeda, who was, the bride of Perseus. Remember when Perseus killed Catos, the sea monster, Cassiopeia, they fledged the deal before that. Perseus asked Cassiopeia, hey, by the way, if I kill the monster and I free your daughter, can I marry her because she's truly beautiful? And she's like, yeah, just go ahead. Don't worry. And so Perseus, who was the father of Perses, who is the saint, the patriarch of all Persians, right? So Perseus most likely is Mithra. And it's very interesting because the mythology of Perseus tells us that Perseus was outfitted by the gods to destroy the Gorgons, right? Gorgon Medusa, who, by the way, lived in Sicily. And here we have an interesting connection because if you look at the Medusa that was beheaded by Perseus. By the way, with a sickle sword, right? With the moon felted sword.
Yes.
This idea of the Medusa being this being of of antiquity, of the heavens, this mortal unmortal being that somehow gave birth to this whole mythology and this whole tale. Here we have Perseus again, right, with the sickle sword. Here we have the head of the Medusa, right, just beheaded, again, also a celestial being. And by the way, the Medusa, the Gorgon Medusa, yes, can be also pointed out to Vorhamad. It's called the Devil's Star. So there is a constellation in the heavens that is depicting and reflecting that as well. And the Medusa is, in a way, if you look at her in these ancient depictions, this monster, again, we have this idea that the Medusa is this tribal force, this incredible force of the past, of nature, right? And she can turn everything into stone, organic into anorganic, and have this almost, magical power. And this is similar to what we get here. We have another a bit more recent drawing, Perseus here with a regular sword. This is more modern. It's a bit curved, but
it seems very, very difficult to kill a creature that you can't look at.
Exactly. You can't look at the Medusa exactly like Mithra is not looking at the bull. And this is where this comes from, I believe. I think they adopted this Perseus mythology into the Mithra cult and the Tauroctony, where weirdly enough, Mithra is not looking at the bull because he's not allowed to, exactly like Perseus is not allowed to look at the Medusa because otherwise he would turn into stone. And this is why these old depictions of Mithra always show him with looking away from the bull and not at it while he's doing it, right? Because he is replacing Perseus as the constellation, as we just clearly saw. This is Taurus. Up here, we have Cassiopeia, we have Orion, Sirius, we have the snake. We have everything matches perfectly. Sol Invictus is up here, right? And this is why he's looking away from the bull. This is also the rainbow code that we have in Christian belief, of course. Again, here we have the Mithraic, the Phrygian caps were worn by Kautos and Kautopanes. So everything checks out. And this is so what they did is they used the Perseus cult and they put on top Mithra to kind of hide its origins. And then with the Cilician pirates coming to southern Italy and infiltrating the Roman elite, the military, and also the elites of the slaves, then it was brought first to Switzerland, then to Amsterdam, then to London, where they created a new banking trading company system. Then they brought it to Jekyll Island, created the Federal Reserve, and that was also the birth then, of course, of the United States of America. Can I prove this? For sure.
And it just goes to show the financially based system going from nowhere to absolutely everywhere. And in my view, it's had its time. The financially based world that we live in, folks, has, in my view, peaked. Because look at this damn world. People pursuing, the material only gets you so far without any purpose, without any meaning. It's a means to an end, not an end unto itself. And that's why I've personally found that unless this system changes, we're going to do ourselves in. Now, what it changes into, that becomes the battle line, as it were. I'd like it to be a reality-based future, but others would want you to own nothing and be happy.
also here again, this is the goddess Liberté, right? This is after the French Revolution. There's actually a beautiful and very famous painting where you see the Phrygian cap. The Jacobins wore the Phrygian cap as well. And very interesting here, Liberté is again looking away from the reptile. She's stabbing, right? And look at what she's holding. She's holding a Roman fasci, which was the old symbol of the Roman elite, of the generals, of the officers of this Roman antique cult. So she is telling us, the French tell us in this painting here, that Liberté is actually Mithra, is actually Perseus, which is actually the secret cult of the Mithraeum, right?
That painting right there encapsulates politics for the last 235 years. You've got the Jacobeans who would eventually become the communists. Of course, you've got the
Marxists.
You've got the Roman symbol, which is most inspired by fascism. You've got the free libertine female, which would be the foundation of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness for the United States. And then you've got the snakes who control the world from behind the scenes. Wink, wink.
Well, the thing is, it doesn't even look like.
Oh, and the chair is the world.
Oh, of course,
the throne. The throne. Yes,
no, that's the throne. No, that's the throne in heaven. The world it's what's beneath the throne. And the crazy thing is
here it is.
Well, Dragon. If Coach can claim there's no such thing as nuclear weapons, I can claim that the world is a chair. It's not flat.
I mean, the world is
actually it's not so far away from what the Egyptians believed, right? You see, the pharaoh always right.
The world, I feel like the chair is not the world. I feel like what's underneath the chair is the world, and the idea is basically saying that, a new. I hate to quote Saruman, but a new power is rising, and that its victory has already been achieved. And and if you look at the way the spear is positioned, right? It's not striking the serpent at the head. It's striking it at the body, which means that I am the new custodian of the serpent. We are the new rulers. We are the new bloods who have taken over. We will not destroy the serpent because it's too convenient.
I can't find the picture. Absolutely, you're absolutely right. I can't find the picture on my cell phone. I did this. I took the picture myself in Rome when I was there because I'm, as you can imagine, I'm a researcher of this mystery for many, many years. And when I saw this myself in Rome, it blew me away. So what you see here are the three Persian Magois, the three magicians, the three kings. Magoi were, star observers back in the days. Magicians, they were called also kings. So these are the three sages attending the birth of Christ. And look what they got on their head. This is the Phrygian cap by the three Persian men with the leopard skin leggings, and this has a meaning as well. These leggings are called Nimrod, the spotted ones. So if you have a leggings back then, and with a leopard pattern, that meant that you were faster than a leopard. So where you were regarded as a king, right, by the Abyssinians. So that's the antique cult of the Abyssinians now in the new cloak with the Phrygian cap. And of course we have the black knight, we have the green knight, and we have the white knight, and the red knight being Christ being born. So we have all four colors of the knight saga also combined in this picture. This completely blew me away. And the date palm that you see back here, in Roman times it was called the Phoenician palm. So we have the Phoenician cult, the Sidon cult, right? We have the three magicians, the three Persians. We have the three Phrygian caps, and of course the three colors of the Knight Saga. Everything combined in one picture. Pretty fucking amazing. Not to mention that the bishop in Rome wears a Mithra hat, right? The bishop hat is called a Mithra hat. And
what I find interesting through these Coach is the seeing before MAGA, and I'm like, is Trump connected to all of this?
Well, MAGA is in the Church of Satan, right? Full disclosure. In the Church of Satan,
Here we go.
the biggest magician is called a maga.
Yeah.
He must
That's
have
that's
released.
the last grade of the highest grades, like what the Freemason consider the 32nd grade, the 32 is a maga in the Church of Satan.
So if they release a book, would it be a magazine?
Wow, I love that, a magazine. So
I'm amazed.
the magician wants to be seen.
I'm amazed Trump has not released a magazine.
Angus, yeah, absolutely, yeah. Actually, Maga is also Maga is also the Celtic goddess. This is all Gaelic language, anyways, because we know that the more ancient we get, the more to the west we travel, and not to the east. Again, also very fascinating.
It is very funny, that word, Gaelic.
I want to show
Dragon
you something.
really puts the gay in Gaelic, ladies.
What
and
the
gentlemen.
fuck? Hey, no. God
So,
damn it.
just to make this even more incredible,
Ooh.
the Vice President of the United States, he has a own hymn. He has a own song, right? When he marches in, usually they don't play the American United States of America or the President's hymn. They have a Vice President hymn, and it's called Hail Columbia. And Hail Columbia, where Columbia, she is the saint patron of the United States. And sure, she wears a Phrygian cap. The Liberty Cap.
I'd be like, as soon as they, sing that and play that as he enters, I'd be like, wrong country. Colombia's in Latin America.
Exactly.
Because I'm appealing to Americans who have no concept of their own history.
This is the seal of the U.S. Senate. Everybody who ever visited Washington D.C. knows that Washington D.C. is some sort of as a Roman Pantheon collection, monument collection. It's all Roman. So we have the fasciae here again, right? The symbol of the officers and the elite.
I'm amazed that still stays there after America's history of fighting fascism. And
it's incredible. Absolutely. You want to create a new republic, and what you do, you get the fasciae first. But there is another conspiracy theory, which is not a conspiracy theory. It's a very interesting branch of research. We can talk about this in some other episodes. Fasciae is also not only the root word for fashion and fascism, but also for phaser. I wonder if that's connected. Right? So the Phrygian cap, the Liberty Cap, how it's called over here, again, the Mithraic cult is present on the United States seal for the Senate.
Yep.
It's absolutely crazy. Not to even mention that Columbia, of course, is Ceramis, which is a Babylonian goddess, right? It has nothing to do with Christopher Columbus. It's Columbia. It's the dove. It's Ceramis, right? And
it's
so
black
therefore,
magic. This is a recorder, but to me it's
here you have it pretty clearly, like the Babylonian ancestors, right? We have Libertas Americana. This is 1783. And we have the Phrygian cap again. And now let's take a look at all the Phrygian caps. So
my God, it's Argentina.
Remember the handbag of the gods, the basket of the gods, right? The cornucopia. We covered this last episode. The pomegranate, which is the fruit of death. We have the angelic vulture, which is, of course, the Armenian, which is the, stone number 43 in Göbekli Tepe. And then we have the Phrygian cap here as well. Yeah, this is the coat of arms of Colombia.
Yeah, and it's pretty on the nose. The stick, the cap, the sun, and the rosary as well,
Exactly, like the mosaic that we showed from 2,500 years ago. Yes, we have the stick, which is the baton. And again, benevolent friendship. This is what the word Mithra means, right? We have the old Roman sign.
Yeah, mutual friendship, partnership, whatever you want to think about. Yeah. Yeah, but
Haiti, of course, the Phrygian cap
Haiti.
on the Phoenician Haiti, right? On the Phoenician palm.
Oh,
And
how
1, 2, 3,
Haitian they worship a
Right.
tree.
a lot of people worship trees.
right?
Oh, man.
They're not
And
people, Dragon. We talked about this.
Oh shit!
this is the Great Seal of the state of Iowa during the Civil
Ooh.
War. We see a Phrygian cap on top of the United States flag. We just see the state of Hawaii with a Phrygian cap. We see the coat of arms of Cuba.
What the
with-
fuck? I never even. Wow.
Yes,
It-
and you
bro,
have
it's
the
got the key and wait, what? It's got
yes.
the key, the red land, the rising sun. Holy fuck!
It has
Really?
everything. Yes, and
You know
we
what's
should.
crazy?
Yes,
I
please.
did want to mention something like there's like a lot of that in Cuba there. I didn't know if you know this, Ryan, but in Cuba, off of the east coast of off of the west coast of Cuba, there is
Mexico.
no. A couple
yes,
miles.
you go west of Cuba, you get Mexico.
No. God damn it! Hold on, let me finish. So they're
Let him
2,000
think
feet.
for once a week.
Yeah. God damn it!
Dragon
2,000.
Slayer. Think.
Hey, I can. Thank you very much. No, 2,000 feet under the sea, off the west coast of Cuba, there is actually evidence of like a sunken city underneath.
Oh yes,
And it was discovered in the early 2000s, but it's all hush hush all of a sudden. Like the Cuban
Mhm.
government doesn't let anyone go near it. And I find it very interesting that a lot of the Olmec origin stories and other Central American and South American and even Native American origin stories mention that that their ancestors came after surviving a disaster from the land from the land of red soil. And the thing is, in Cuba,
Mhm.
the soil has this very reddish tint to it because of the high content of iron in the soil, which makes it very good for producing very good crops. And so and supposedly there is this idea that 10,000 plus years ago, Cuba may have been actually a mountain
Yes.
range that was
Yes.
part of a much larger landmass that existed, probably from a chain of massive islands in the Atlantic.
Absolutely.
And then there is that theory that from the Templars, because believe it or not, these motherfuckers are now coming out in the middle of the light. Like they're not hiding anymore, apparently.
No.
And the Grand Master even mentioned that the reason the Spanish were able to trick the natives into like making them think that they were gods or friends is because somehow they learned the secret technique of the Templars that they used in order to talk to natives, sort of like a code to let them know that they were friendly. And that code was the handshake that we all do when we greet each other with our hands. Because in the past, people would greet each other or by interlocking arms most of the time, or by normal bowing greet.
I just thought it was through our superior intellect, Dragon.
No, it was, but the thing is, the Templars had this mission that their Grand Master confirmed that their grand mission was to basically, little by little, transport the ancient knowledge of the old world back to the new world and sort of restore Atlantis to its former glory by eventually migrating their knowledge they had acquired. And the way they did this, they traveled to New World before it was even discovered by the Vikings, was they used their newly created city-state, Portugal. Believe it or not, the first king of Portugal was part of the inner circle of the Templars, and they helped fund his armies and everything in order to create the country, because they needed a buffer state that they could use to travel around freely throughout the entire world in order to acquire ancient lost artifacts that they believed were from Atlantis or this ancient civilization. Because guess what? They also believed in the ancient teachings of Mithras and the Gnostics. So they had the, and at the end of the day, the Gnostics were just In my opinion,
Yeah.
they seem to be a more advanced or slightly
Yes.
edited version of the Mithraic teachings. I know,
Yes.
Ryan. God damn it, just listen. God damn it, you fucking Arrowman.
No,
blame
it's
my
not derailing. I mean, it's
I'll-
okay.
Edgy fucking
I'll
Arrowman.
play my recorder dragon. You can't even say iron properly. So
So,
What do you mean, iron?
Even
Iron.
the idea that
No,
we
iron.
have the
That's
two
pronounced.
keys representing the
Yes,
Vatican and the
iron.
3 keys representing Switzerland. By the way, very
Iron
interesting.
Man.
Iron Man. So we have the lunar
Iron.
key.
Oh, okay. Wait.
That is the descending torch, and then we have the solar key. That is the ascending torch. This is Caudos and Cautopanis, right? Again, the 2 light bearers of Mithra. This is a Mithra head, and this is the Vatican seal. This is the coat of arms of the family of Borgias, the very famous. Infamous, I would say, Florence, Machiavellistic, right, family that kind of infiltrated the Vatican. So the idea to present Mithra with the keys is or if you want to call it so, why did Jesus say, yeah, Peter, you are the rock and I will give you my 2 keys? Because Peter and Paul are Cautos and Cautopanis. Jesus is Sol Invictus, and Jesus is Mithra, and God is Sol Invictus. He is the Son. He is the spiritual Son. So we have all these symbols coming together in this cult,
And the disciples, too.
under a new shape, right? With a new way of presenting itself. And let's not forget one thing that I think we should mention really quickly. This cult, the Cilician, remember when I talked about the Cilician pirates infiltrating the Roman Empire and bringing this Mithraic cult? When the Roman Empire fell and the patricians moved to Venice, where they brought the lion who was part of the 4th initiation ring, right, of the elite, and they brought it to Venice. So you have the doges, right, the rulers of Venice, of course, wearing a Mithraic hat, a Phrygian cap, to kind of, show their status and show exactly where they're coming from. And the Venetians then, they founded the Amsterdam Central Bank. Basically, they founded Switzerland, and later on the London Central Bank alongside with Sir Christopher Wren. And the Venetians, Toro del Tassi, the Warburg family, which was del Grosso family, the Italian Grosso family, they were the co-founders out of the Federal Reserve. And this is why we have in the United States, we have Venetian driveways, Venetian canals, Venetian ways and streets all the time. And you will see the Venetian logo happening everywhere. And the thing of the celestial lion is coming from that Persian era where we also highlighted, in the handbags of the gods, where we have the lion that is winged, that is kind of reminding us also of Perseus, who had the winged horse. So we have these mythical animals, right, coming back to us through this cult. And the 4 constellations that are always visible, which is very important, like you said, for navigation. The 4 never extinguished constellations, the always dominant constellations, are always in the sky, circulating our Polaris, our North Star. There are Leo, Regulus, Vorhamad, and Taurus. So the 4 constellations that are always visible are basically the 4 corners of the Mithraean cult. And this is why the Mithraean cult is always heavily associated also to navigators, to mercantile, to commerce, to admiralty law. And this Venetian lion, who's the Persian lion, then later got adopted by, of course, Great Britain, right? The Premier League lion, and that then, exported its product to the United States. And now Great Britain is what earlier on the Cilician pirates were to the Pontus Greeks. Now Great Britain is the same thing. It's the trading fleet for the Americans, right? So who controls the sea and controls commerce, controls the status quo.
Though I will say, because I always have to go at the 2-hour mark because of
Yes.
scheduling, but I will say It's so sad that the Doges of Venice will now be remembered for Dogecoin.
Yes.
They have become a cryptocurrency.
Well,
Which is
I mean,
probably something they would have liked, money grabbing bastards, and
Yeah.
now embracing a new age of money that will hopefully die off as we do away with the financially based world, which has gotten us to the shithole state we are currently in. My goodness.
so we have the winged lion. This is an oriental winged lion with the two keys, holding the two keys. This is again Mithra, Peter, and Paul. Right, or we have also the winged lion here holding the snake, holding both ends of the snake, both sides of the keys, just to give you
It's like
an
the
idea.
Sphinx, you know?
Yes,
It's like the Sphinx is the guardian of knowledge.
So good, Ryan Roger essay. Thank you so much for your unwavered support. It's beautiful to have you here. You're invasive, but you're you're always invading our mental space, but with such charm and intelligence and smartness and humor that it's impossible to think of such a show without your very valuable contribution. So please let us know where we can find you.
Sure. But first, an earache. But ladies and gentlemen, you can find me at Ryan Roger Athay, because who the fuck would pretend to be me? I'm the host and founder of Reality Base. We always like to have good talks. I ended the timestamps at around a solid hour, but from it I can make 7 videos, nice, clear, concise videos that hopefully everyone will swallow whole. Because you Americans, you really do like to swallow things whole, don't you?
Dun, dun, dun.
But
we are not
say
Americans by origin, so
I will say that more videos will be released, and we've been reducing our show schedule because of how difficult they can be, especially one after the other. But it's good to have a more relaxing posture as we end April, as we begin May. Can't call it March through May because we have the March through March. But yeah, that's the plan. Keep on going, and fingers crossed we can keep on growing. Gentlemen, it has been a pleasure. It always is. And hopefully you can all, or both rather, wrap up the show. And don't leave now that I'm going, because that's usually what happens. I go and then everyone leaves because no one understands these 150 IQ descriptions in Coach's case, and Dragon Slayer just being a second-rate version of him. So,
God damn it!
I better go.
Thank you, good sir.
Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, and nothing else. Bye for now.
Bye for now. See you on Saturday, good man. Definitely check out Ryan Roger Athay's awesome channel. It's very entertaining. Definitely. He has incredible, hilarious takes. He's not a racist, even though he is a racist, but then again, he's not. But therefore, it's really fun to kind of learn from him. He's a paradox. He's an oxymoron. He's an oxymoron for sure.
He's just an outlier in the programming. We just let him be.
He's a glitch. He's a perfect example of an organic glitch.
Mm-hmm. Oh my God.
I just wanted to show this, talking about again the Perseus Mithra connection in India, right? Where we have the same god. This is Kali. Again, we have the rounded sword, the sickle sword, and she's beheading the monster, like Perseus beheaded the Medusa, like Mithra killed the Taurus. Again, we have the wand here. And this is, of course, Johannes as well. Let's take a look at him. In Christian mythology, we have another very, very important, symbolism here.
You know what I realized? It's like all these things of like cutting off heads and like holding them over with the sickle. It could also I've seen interpretations of it being mentioned as, this is like showing the moment when mankind or the world was tamed by or the world was tamed, if you will, or mankind won over nature or something like that, or when humans
in a way
began.
Definitely there is this connotation as well that there is they want to give us the idea that the wild nature now is tamed, and that they were coming from culture to civilization, or from right here again we have I want to show
Ignorance
this
to enlightenment, I guess.
to enlightenment and all that.
Yeah, they always show the same. Yeah, and I assume, is this supposed to be an archangel, or is this supposed to be an archangel? Or is it supposed to be Jesus with wings?
This is an archangel having Johannes. Again, we have here the Fashai. It's very subtle, but it has the same, of course, the same pattern, right? The scroll. We have the baton here, the red stick, and of course, if you look at this, it's very interesting. We have the square in the middle. We have this Mithraic cross here.
Even the halo too, the halo.
Yes, the
Helios,
of course, right? Helios, the heliodrome.
Wait, hold on a minute. Could you scroll up to the top? I just want to see the whole thing. Oh man, I was gonna say, like, it looks like there may have been like two more symbols, two more like runes, because it feels like. So basically, I assume that that these runes are supposedly written in Enochian, or trying to depict the angelic nature of this figure, and we're basically
John the Baptist said exactly.
Yeah,
yes.
That is John. Okay, thank you. I just want to make sure. And yes, it could go back to the slaying of Marduk by Tiamat. At the end of the day, the Sumerians and the Akkadians both used those stories to say, "Oh, this is when civilization began. Once the gods tamed basically the wild nature of Earth, gave it structure, and then from the ashes, mankind arose. They were led to enlightenment, and then shit went south because." Like irresponsible parents having 2 kids at 18, didn't know what the fuck to do. But that's a story for another time. But I find that picture to be interesting because it seems like or this one too. It's always uses
again. We have the same idea, right? He doesn't look at the this is Saint George, obviously. Slaying the reptile again, right? Here we have the Gorgon's Knot, which is very interesting.
Yep.
The horse, the white horse, right? It's not even looking. Again, we have a very similar composition to the Mithraic cult. Again, the dragon is the tamed. It's sometimes it's coming out of this cavern here again, right? Out of the Mithraeum, right? This is the ancient nature. That's the old, untamed, esoteric, spiritual knowledge that was in all of us. That was then, of course, that had to subdue.
I want to go deep into that, actually.
Sure.
So here's the thing. So I want to go a little bit deep into that. So yeah, we have again, we can see we got the halo. We got the rod of command on the man's right hand. As you can see, he's holding it up above. So the crazy thing is, by the way this picture is framed, it looks like, in this case, we have the man looking at the horse, if you will. But
yes,
so here's the thing. So the horse is looking at the man. The man is not looking directly at the horse. He's looking on ahead. Right. But yet both of them are trampling on the dragon. And here's what I find to be interesting. So if we go by spiritual teachings, what this is showing is basically the struggle of between basically the higher self, or the man with the rod, or the spiritual side of any human or any human being, and then the ego, which is usually depicted in the form of a dragon or a serpent, because that's how they did it. And then the horse, or the white bull in the middle, so to speak, is usually depicted as the physical body or the physical realm. So the idea is that, the perfect harmony, if you will, perfect spiritual harmony or balance is acknowledging not only the lower ego self, but acknowledging the fact that there's a superior nature of the spiritual self. And that the way to success is usually when you, the horse, or the physical manifestation of the higher self, is following the higher divine self spirit rather than the ego. Sort of saying that the way forward lies with the higher self, the way backwards lies with the ego. The best way to master it is to learn to balance both. Usually that's
I totally agree.
Talk about that. Yeah.
I believe in a way, even though, of course, we can debate about the interpretation, and usually the white horse is the untamed nature, blah, 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 but with the noble instinct, the black horse is exactly the
pure,
opposite.
You
and
know,
so,
it's pure, unblemished, you know, sort
but
of
if
thing.
you want to see it like this is Sol Invictus, right? That is the spiritual sun. That is, you know, the unattainable mission, right? Because we can obtain immaculate spiritual knowledge while we're still being in this low vibrational physical cell, right? So this is our future vision. This is our untamed past. And this is the event horizon. Look how the horse is placed exactly on the eye horizon, right? That is coming out. So in a way, this is us. The horse is us. This is our manifestation today. We are not the wild animal from the past. We're still not the saint from the future. We're this thing in the present where we're sort of in between those two forces, right? Somebody wants to tame us. Like, you see how he's, you know, taking us away from that nature. Don't look at it, right? No, you're better now.
Yeah, the idea of the higher self, or in Christian mythology, you know, the Holy Spirit supposedly guiding you away from sin. But you know, you could also say he was trying to guide you into further enlightenment. But at the same time, you know, the ego is also necessary. You know, there's a lot of culture, there's a lot of religions. There's a lot of there's a lot of cultures and a lot of religions that usually say, oh no, spirit only, oh no, ego only. In reality, you need both. So the idea is to follow the spirit to where you can achieve whatever you can while you're trying to achieve, but at the same time understand that you must acknowledge and wrestle with the ego constantly, and that there will be times where it will overpower, but you must bounce back and return to the spirit, but also make sure to remind yourself that you are not that you're not in that state of spirit. You know, you're in a way you're simultaneously experiencing all three at once, but you're not aware of the other.
I totally agree.
But you need to understand that you are experiencing all three at once, and that you must balance out how much time you give each one. It's like when okay, if I could give this example, it's like ego is the unruly child, okay, that really needs your attention, and the spirit is that wife that, you know, loves the fact you're a good dad, but you know she wants some sexy time and talking and cuddling and, you know, all the stuff that we all know, okay, just a typical love, attention, whatever, right? Now, usually for most marriages that work, the idea is balancing both sides, giving enough attention to your wife and your kids at the same time. Yes, the id. Yes. Thank you, Dungeon. Yeah, that is right. Yes, it is called the id, usually. I say ego because that's what a lot of New Age circles, I don't even like saying fucking New Age because that shit sounds... Because most of the stuff that claims it's New Age is just like a weird crossover.
Remix of old stuff that they don't even understand.
And they're trying to make it into a fucking cult, and I'm like, I don't want that shit, you know. And see, we have it again. The fucking see again. Horse is looking away.
He's looking away.
The rod of rule. Okay, is either about to strike the serpent or has struck the serpent, and is again talking about the same battle. By the way, does that look like Horus to me, or is that like supposed to be like
that's Horus?
That's Horus, right?
That's Horus. That's a very rare pick, by the way. It's truly hard to find this one because the Egyptology Institute doesn't like to give out this picture freely because it somehow confuses, and kind of blurs the line of what because we have a clear depiction of Mithraism here, of the cult of Perseus, right? So this is clearly Persian in its origin and its way also, and they want to have those clear-cut borders, right? And so
but
they
Egypt
don't...
existed. Wait, hold on. Remember now, that's already conflicting with Egyptologists, because then you would ask the question like, okay, well, shit, Egyptian civilization is obviously much older than Mithraism. It's almost as old as Sumerian civilization.
Right.
So where the hell did they get that shit? Where did they and the Sumerians get that from? And then they would have to be asking the question, maybe history is much older than they say it is.
Yes.
For
Doesn't
ancient
this
Egypt.
look pre-Columbian to you as well? I mean, to me,
Yeah.
this strikes me also.
I mean, look at the headdress. The headdress
right.
looks like it doesn't even look like the typical like it looks like a
Egyptian,
birdman, but it looks more like a freaking
Mesoamerican.
tribal, like more of a ceremonial helmet,
Yes.
if you will, that somebody
Yes.
would wear. You know, like it's not
Right.
actually their head; it's just a ceremonial helmet. You know, that makes you look a certain way, like as if somebody wore it. You know?
Oh, absolutely. This is something that, like, similar to Stargate, the idea that this is a helmet, some sort of a hair dress, a hair, ornamentation, rather than being inside. Yeah. Absolutely.
And the crazy thing is, like, you know, there's this description in the Emerald Tablets that always talks, and there's descriptions of these strange, peculiar giants that are not like the typical ones that are man-eaters. These are more evolved, more enlightened. You see, they wear proper colorful clothing, and they come in. They have pale skin, but other types of skin variant colors as well. But it's on the pale variant, right? Mm-hmm. And then they have these mysterious tools of magic where they can levitate, you know, crap off just up into the air. They got these strange flying chariots. Every word they speak, it's like you lose control. You have to follow what they say, and then you research into, you know, sound harmonics and vibration, and you realize that here's the best part. You know, this will make y'all smash the like button because it's very interesting. You see, it has been discovered through scientific studies that ancient Sanskrit, ancient Hebrew, and Sumerian languages, when you speak the words in those ancient languages, they emit, because of the way that you speak it, they emit a specific frequency,
the vowels,
that can either affect your body physically in either a positive or negative way, depending on how it's used and the tone that it's used. And that makes you ask further questions like, okay, where did they learn this from? Who did they learn this from? Who taught them to speak like this? And then
absolutely, these sounds, they are emitting perfect resonance that once you if you kind of amplify the sound and you put something above that, and you will, let's take sand or dust, you will see that the dust or the sand will form according to the resonance pattern, because it's so pure and immaculate.
Water
too. And then you can freeze it and look it under the microscope, and it's a perfect match. So it makes you wonder, like, how is it that these people knew that these vowels were corresponding to these resonance forms? What I want to show you here is, on the left we have Horus, of course, Egyptian Horus, just to make this connection even broader and to show that everything is connected again. And this is Garuda. That's the Indonesian Horus, if you want to call it so. Now, the most interesting thing is, what has Garuda on his breast template? This thing here seems like nothing, right? But this thing here is called a Venetian rose. So we have the connection again, right? We have the reptile feet, all right? We have the winged, just to give us the celestial origin. We have the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? We have again the door. Always 7. We have the crown of liberty, the liberty cap, if you want. And look at this. This looks like it's an armor. This is like metal, right? This is like, this is sort of like sealed off, like it's a suit that was put on, right? Very interesting.
The feet may be real though, because of the way it looks, but I will say this, you know, I always find out that I always feel kind of interested that they always use the number 7, because for those of you that are into any search for the spiritual, like, meaning of a lot of things, you know, there's the idea of like the nine dimensions, 9 degrees, whatever you want to call it, and there's always that idea that, like, every time they put number 7, it feels more like, oh, the 7 is meant as a way of gatekeeping, of saying, hey, the gatekeeper to true unification, to true spirit, the true spiritual ascension, and that's why they always show these guides with something related to the number 7, because it's sort of like saying, oh, these are higher aspects of yourself, that the only way you'll go forward is if you unify with that and your lower self and your current self. I always find it interesting.
That's absolutely a beautiful way to put it. And just one last picture here of Perseus again on the winged horse, on the Pegasus. And he's fighting the reptile again at this very interesting town here, this port town. So again, they are telling us it's ships, right? It's trade. They're coming from the sea, right? So these people, they were traveling with the constellation. This is Andromeda, right? And she's waiting because Clotho.
Is that the monster?
That's Katos. That's Katos. That's the monster Katos. The sea monster Katos.
Oh,
right?
okay. Yeah. You know what's crazy? It's weird, some of these depictions of these monsters. Like, some of them make them look terrifying, and then this one just looks like a weird-ass dog monster. And yes, the 9 worlds and the 7 heavens. Yes, you are right.
Yes, absolutely right.
It's definitely true. Yeah. So it's either, usually 9 or 7, but usually it seems that number 7 was used more as a way of gatekeeping. But
yes,
it's 9 just simply means... It's just like the 9 worlds.
9 is the virgin number, right? It's 369. It's a Tesla number.
The origin of all,
Yes, and 7 is more like El Shareva or El Shaeba. It's she's the queen of 7s. That's why we have 7 planets, 7 days, 7 windows in a church on the side ship, right? 7 is some sort of it's the terrestrial breakdown of a celestial concept.
Yeah. So number 7 would be realization of divine self. 8 would be realization of the divine realm, and 9 would be more of realization of the source that creates the divine realm and all under it, or God for people that need the simplistic term. So there is like a sort of an ascension aspect of it, which each higher number you get, the more aware you become. So I find it fascinating. That's why.
Again, we have here, this is Venezuela, coat of arms. We have the white horse that is chasing the bull. Again, very interesting. We have the whip, like in the Roman mosaic piece. And of course, the Phrygian cap up here. Here we have the 7, boatfarers. This is, again, Venezuela. Again, we have the trident, which points us to Atlantis, right? To Poseidon. Phrygian cap is down at the anchor and on top of the sword. And of course, the Phrygian cap stands for Sol Invictus. It's the sun god, right? They're telling us this very clearly. This is Brazil up here in the tower. Let's not forget Ceramis, right? The Babylonian goddess. She's the creator of the watchtower. She was the first that encompassed her city with walls. So this is going back to the turrets on the crown, right? This is going back to the Babylonian principle. This is the coat of arms of Acre state, Acre state of Brazil. Here we have the lion again, the Mithraic lion, the Mithraic hat. And this is truly wow, this is powerful stuff here, as you can see.
Oh yeah, the references to either the sea, the seas, or even the sacred birds, the hidden keys, the sacred keys. Yes,
absolutely. Here we have the 5-pointed star with the eagle, which is the constellation of Antares, and we have the 2 keys. One is an anchor, telling us again, hey, they used to travel by ship. They used to follow the constellations, the 4 constellations that never dipped below the horizon, right? We have Leo, we have Taurus, we have the eagle and the boy, Bohamad, Regulus, Leo, and Taurus, the Phrygian cap. This is Nicaragua. We have the coat of arms of Nicaragua, which is the celestial or the rainbow coat of Mithra. They're just taking it one to one. Here, the harp, because harpy, this is the old name of the sickled sword. This is Ireland, right? Yeah, Irish Rebellion, of course. The Phrygian cap there. We explained where this key is coming from. and the rising red sun, right? Very, very important. This is Cuba.
Crazy. I just noticed something.
Sure.
You notice the fact that there's two mountain ranges, like wait, no, in the coat of arms of my home country. This is fucking
Right.
weird, wild. But you know what's crazy? There is the symbology behind this. So just so you
Right.
understand, guys, the two rocks on the left and right hand side, if you know anything about Greek mythology or Plato's description of Atlantis, again, they said Atlantis was a very strong, powerful nation that used to exist beyond the
Strait
pillars
of
of
Gibraltar.
Hercules or the Strait
Right.
of Gibraltar, you know.
Right.
So they're using the key to signify, you know, this is the land that they were referencing. They even show the sun rising on the opposite end. We got the palm tree and everything. It's just a way of saying, like, hey, this is a. And we got the
Yes.
Mithraea cap on top with the rosary, with the nice little rosary of herbs that are
Yes.
used in sacred rituals. It's just a
Incense,
way
yeah.
of saying. It's just
Yes.
a way of saying, like, yes,
This is the druidic. This is the druidic cult as well, right? We have
Yeah.
the mistletoe, the old knowledge of nature. This is, by the way, the origin is the Tarsus Mountain. We have the Turkish mountainside here with the palm, and this is the new destination. These are the new. You know, this is the what's coming after the Strait of Gibraltar, like you said, or the two pillars of Hercules, right? So they're giving us the origin in the heraldic, and this is the old crest, also the old shape. Incredible to me. This is when I see stuff like this, I really get goosebumps because they are clearly telling it, right? They're clearly showing it. And this is just to show you guys where this Phrygian cap is. It's absolutely insane. It's basically everywhere, from the Smurfs up to every coat of arms of every Latin American nation, to the vice president of the United States, to the French Revolution, to the Jacobins who were the Marxists of France, to the seal of the Senate of the United States, to basically every piece of institution that we have. We see the Phrygian cap. Orpheus, right, who is the harp player. This is why we have the harp sometimes on the coat of arms. And again, we have the eagle that is actually the crow, which is the initial grade, the first step of getting initiated into the cult of Mithra. And again, also the hat again to be shown. It's the hat is a symbol that kind of connects all the hats that are wearing it. So the hat wears the hat, and therefore it's connected to this ancient cult.
Yeah, and wow, I think that's a pretty good way to wrap it up. Shit,
I believe so. Yeah, that was pretty insane, man. That was an insane ride today.
Oh, that was good. Yeah, I was surprised. I can't believe we got a lot out of that. out of just one cap. Out of the mushroom cap.
I knew it the first time we mentioned it. I think it was on Saturday Night Hypnosis. I immediately knew, oh God, we have to make an episode out of this. It's gonna take forever. But I'm actually surprised we got through this like pretty quickly, and still I feel we covered all major points, everything that is truly important and peculiar about this piece of garment.
Yeah, and Coach, I just gotta say, I always love coming to these shows with you, man. I always do.
Man.
Yeah. And guys, you know what? With this, I think we can definitely wrap up episode 28 of Open Class Doodles. And before we do, I want to give it up to this wonderful host, Coach MC Studio, because I think he's got something to tell y'all. So let's do this.
Yes, sir. Please let us know where we can find you and what your next videos are going to look like and where you're heading to this year.
Of course. Well, if you guys have not yet watched it, I have made a official review that came out, I think, like maybe 4 days ago, since last Saturday, or actually last 3 days ago, something like that. I made a review on the American Society of, I can say, Magical Negroes. That's the name of the movie, okay? That is the name of an actual movie. It's not me being racist. It's literally... Yes, I know my thumbnail really impacted these people, and
That was nice.
I guess it somehow got the right kind of attention because I have not heard anybody accusing me of being racist. They're just like, "Oh shit, you're right," and I have to say that was a interesting thing to review. But as for future projects, everybody, I'm going to be doing a review on the on this 2024 Civil War movie that came out. That good lord, that was an interesting one. I was not expecting it to turn out the way it did, and no, it's not in a positive light. I was expecting it to be positive or average, but no, it turned out to be shit. I'll explain why, obviously, in the review. Although there's not much to explain because the movie's kind of boring. But don't worry, guys. You'll get your take on it, and then afterwards, I'll be working on reviewing part 2 of Zack Snyder's Slow Mo Fest sci-fi universe ripoff of Warhammer 40K and Star Wars, Rebel Moon Part 2. And after that, I think on the 29th, the second season of the HBO Velma show comes out, which is next Monday. So I gotta mentally prepare myself for that shit.
Oh my god!
And it'll be a weekly fucking bonanza of fucking Velma.
Oh my god!
And that's what I'm gonna be working on. Hopefully I don't lose my brain cells over that. I only have 99 left. I'd rather keep them.
But they're very strong and very resilient.
Yes, they are very resilient, like the Jewish zealots, and they really want to stay. So so now they're keeping the invaders at bay. But yeah, that's the plan with my channel for now. Obviously, there'll be more to come than that, but yeah, that's it for me. Oh, might talk about the Henry Cavill, what's it called? The Ungentlemanly Warfare movie. Might do a quick take on that one as well. But yeah, that's it for me.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. We have the open class coming up, the masterclass April 27th. Like I said, you can register now for free. Please make sure to do so. Description is down below or directly on Eventbrite or through my link tree on Instagram. It's going to be a hell of a masterclass, 2.5 hours long, half-hour final Q&A. You learn everything you need to learn for the rest of your life to decipher the script in a very effective and powerful way. So it will never leave you alone. This type of knowledge you can apply to every script in your life, and it's going to be a super powerful resource whenever you have to read, present, manufacture a scene, propose, something interesting and authentic through the words of an author. This is the way how to do it. Definitely stop by. It's going to be a great show. We're going to have open class doodles coming back to you guys on Thursday, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're still kind of trying to figure out the best time. If you have a better time recommendation, please let us know what you would love to see happening on Thursday. If you'd like to keep 3 p.m. or 6 p.m., we're still kind of juggling back and forth, thinking about that. Saturday Night Hypnosis, of course, is going to be strong this Saturday. Eric July out of Ripperverse coming to the show. It's going to be incredible. I think it's going to be our biggest show, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Hypnotic's YouTube channel. And myself and this wonderful gentleman here, we are OG members of that panel, being present since day one. We have, I think, episode 88 or 89 coming up. So it's absolutely crazy. 2 years almost that we're in with this incredible project. And next week, join us again, right, when we have Open Class Doodles on Tuesday, when we're going to talk about another very hot, interesting historical topic where we try to shed some light into our mysterious past. In the meanwhile, follow me on Instagram, on Twitter as well. You can catch me on TikTok, certainly. And on Telegram, I have also a new little channel where I inform you guys about certain events that pop up here in Miami, something a bit more personal. Artsy stuff is more on IG. And I think that was just another great opportunity to just come together, guys, and just, learn some new stuff, and also getting, the feedback from the chat. You guys been amazing commenting. Dungeon Master Bass, Dax and R, the Gooch was here. Cage was here. Thank you to Ryan Roger Athay. Thank you to Enemy Night. Thank you to everybody present. See you next Thursday, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with the next Open Class Doodles. And I think for now, we've got everything, and you are ready to perform.
Bye.